You can budget every dollar you make. You can track every expense, cut every latte, follow every rule your parents taught you about saving. And still, that tight feeling in your chest never goes away. Because the problem was never your income. It was never your spreadsheet. What if the real reason you never feel secure isn't how much you earn? It's that you never learned how Japan quietly makes peace with money, a relationship built centuries before budgeting apps existed. Most people in the West discover this too late, after the debt, after the regret, after years spent chasing more, when the answer was never about more at all. Today, that changes, because these 7 money rules aren't tips. They're a different way of seeing money entirely, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's what's coming. 7 rules drawn from a country that has quietly mastered money for generations, while the rest of the world chased the next paycheck. Rule 3 will make you look at every subscription you forgot you were paying for. Rule 5 is something almost no Westerner has ever heard of, a single piece of cloth that replaced an entire category of spending, and still does in homes across Japan today. And Rule 7, save that one for last. It doesn't just add to the other 6, it changes how you see all of them. Most people in the West never realize this rule even exists, but once you hear it, every budget you've ever made will look different. So stay until the end, because the last rule doesn't just teach you something new about money, it undoes almost everything you were ever taught about saving in the first place. Rule 1. And it starts with a question most people avoid answering honestly. Do you actually know where your money went last week? Not roughly, not mostly groceries and gas. Exactly. Most people in the West don't. They glance at a bank app once in a while, feel a flicker of guilt, and close it just as fast. Money gets tracked in the head, a vague running total that's always a little bit wrong and always a little bit stressful. Nobody wants to look too closely, because looking too closely feels like confirming the fear. In Japan, that fear gets handled differently. For over 100 years, households have used something called a kakeibo, a simple handwritten ledger where every single yen spent gets written down before it's spent, not after. This is kakeibo, a household budgeting journal built on one belief: that money mismanaged in silence stays mismanaged, but money written down in your own handwriting becomes impossible to ignore. There's no app, no automation, just a notebook, a pen, and 4 honest questions asked at the start of every month. How much do you have? How much do you want to save? How much are you actually spending? And how can you improve? And this is the part that changes everything. Kakeibo isn't about restriction, it's about awareness, because control never comes first, awareness does. You can't fix what you refuse to look at, and you can't feel calm about money you're actively avoiding. If you've ever closed a banking app without reading the number, you already know exactly what this feels like. The families who built this habit generations ago weren't chasing wealth. They were chasing peace of mind, and they found it, one handwritten line at a time. But writing your spending down is only the beginning, because Rule 2 is about something Western culture doesn't just ignore, it actively resists. And it starts with a single Japanese word for regret. Rule 2. And this one asks you to feel a little guilty, on purpose. Think about the last thing you replaced instead of repaired. A blender with one loose part, a jacket with a broken zipper, a phone that still worked, just not as fast as the new one. Most people in the West don't think twice about this. Something gets a little worn, a little inconvenient, and it goes in the bin, replaced within the week, barely mourned. In Japan, there's a word for the discomfort that moment should actually cause. It's called mottainai, a deep sense of regret over wasted value, whether that value is money, an object, or effort someone put into making it. This is mottainai, The feeling that throwing something away too soon is, in its own quiet way, a small act of disrespect. It's why broken pottery gets repaired with gold instead of thrown out, why old kimonos get passed down and remade instead of discarded, why a torn garment gets mended, not replaced. And here's what nobody talks about. That habit of replacing instead of repairing isn't convenience, it's a leak. A small one, sure, but small leaks repeated for years drain more than anyone realizes. You've been living with this leak for years. Japan named it and solved it centuries ago. Mottainai doesn't ask you to keep everything forever. It asks you to notice the moment you're about to waste something and pause there, just long enough to ask if it deserves one more chance. But noticing waste in your things is easy compared to what's next, because Rule 3 is about the waste you can't even see, the kind that leaves your account every single month on autopilot. Rule 3, and this is the one that hides in plain sight, right there on your bank statement. Go ahead and picture it. A streaming service you forgot you signed up for, an app trial that quietly became a monthly charge, a gym membership you haven't used since January, still pulling money out every single month without a fight. Most people in the West let this pile up for years because each individual charge feels too small to bother canceling. Japan has a different lens for this, one that goes far beyond subscriptions. It's called danshari, the discipline of discarding, refusing, and separating from anything that no longer serves you. This is danshari, 3 actions in one word. Refuse what you don't need, discard what you don't use, and separate yourself from the attachment that kept it around in the first place. It started with physical belongings, closets, drawers, entire rooms full of things kept just in case. But the same discipline applies just as sharply to spending. Every unused subscription is clutter. It just happens to be invisible, buried in a bank statement nobody actually reads line by line. Most people never realize this, but unused things don't just take up space, they bleed money quietly, month after month, while you're not looking. And this is the part that changes how you see everything else on your statement, because danshari isn't about deprivation, it's about honesty, asking plainly, does this still serve me, or am I just used to it being there? Cutting what you don't need feels small in the moment, but what we're about to cover next, most people in the West have never even considered, and it has nothing to do with subtraction at all. Take a breath for a second. If any of this is landing, the ledger, the guilt, the invisible subscriptions, pause right here and picture your own kakeibo, just for a moment. What would it show if you wrote down every yen, every dollar in your own handwriting? That's the awareness we're building, rule by rule. But what we're about to cover next, most people in the West have never even considered it. It isn't about tracking money or cutting waste at all. It's about a single piece of cloth and what it quietly replaced in Japanese homes for generations. Stay close. This one surprises almost everyone. Rule 4. And this one goes after something deeper than habit. It goes after taste itself. Most people in the West are trained to want new phone, new couch, new season of clothes that quietly replaces the old one before it's even worn out. Quantity feels like abundance. A full closet feels like success, even when half of it never gets touched. Japan built an entire aesthetic around the opposite instinct. It's called wabi-sabi, finding peace and beauty in imperfection and simplicity, in things that are worn, weathered, and real. This is wabi-sabi, the belief that a chipped teacup, an aged wooden table, a well-loved coat can hold more beauty than anything fresh off a shelf. It shows up everywhere. A single, well-made bowl chosen over a cabinet full of mismatched ones. A coat bought to last 20 years, not 20 wears. Fewer objects, each one chosen with care, each one allowed to age instead of being replaced the moment it stops looking brand new. And this is the part that changes how you see everything else you buy. Because quality spending isn't indulgence, it's quiet wealth. A few things bought once, built to last, cost less over a lifetime than dozens of things bought cheap and replaced again and again. If you've ever felt that flicker of shame buying something nice, wabi-sabi says the opposite is true. Choosing well isn't excess, it's respect for the object and for your own money. This is the one shift that makes several of the other rules actually work, because once you stop chasing newness, waste stops finding you. But Rule 5 is where things get almost nobody has heard of. And it starts with a square of fabric. Rule 5. This is the one almost no Westerner has ever heard of, and it starts with a single square of cloth. Think about how much gets bought for one job and one job only. Gift wrap, used once and thrown away. A tote bag for groceries. A special bag just for gym clothes. A separate container for lunch, another for storage, another for travel. Most people in the West buy a new item for every new purpose, without ever questioning it. In Japan, one object solved almost all of it. It's called furoshiki, a traditional wrapping cloth folded and tied in different ways to carry, wrap, or store almost anything. This is furoshiki, a single piece of fabric that becomes a gift wrap, a grocery bag, a lunch wrap, or a travel pouch, depending only on how it's folded. The same cloth that wrapped a gift on Monday might carry books to work on Tuesday and hold vegetables from the market on Wednesday. Nothing single-use, nothing thrown away after one job. Most people in the West never realize this, but every single-purpose item bought over the lifetime adds up to real money. Dozens of small purchases, each one solving a problem that a little resourcefulness could have solved for free. And this is the part that changes how you see your own drawers and cupboards, because resourcefulness was never just an environmental habit. It's a money rule, quietly practiced for centuries, long before anyone used the word sustainable. You've been buying a new solution for every new problem for years. Japan solved that with one piece of cloth, folded a different way each time. But Rule 6 isn't about what you own at all. It's about why you're spending in the first place. And that question changes everything that follows. Rule 6. And this one isn't really about money at all, not at first. Think about the last purchase that didn't fix anything. A late-night order that arrived and felt strangely empty the moment it showed up. A treat-yourself moment after a hard day, forgotten by the following week. Most people in the West spend to fill something: stress, boredom, loneliness. And the purchase never quite reaches the thing it was meant to soothe. Japan approaches this from a completely different direction. It's built around a concept called Ikigai, your reason for being. The intersection of what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs. This is Ikigai, a clear, personal sense of purpose that shapes every decision underneath it, including how you spend. When someone knows their Ikigai, spending naturally narrows. Purchases that serve that purpose feel obvious and worth it. Purchases that don't, the distractions, the filler, the things bought only to feel something for a moment, start to feel pointless before the money even leaves the account. And this is the part that changes how you see every purchase you make, because when you know your why, your wallet follows it almost automatically. No willpower required, no guilt-driven budgeting, just clarity doing the filtering for you. Most people never realize their spending problem was never really about money. It was about a missing sense of direction underneath it. And if you're watching this, you already know exactly which purchases in your life were never really about the thing you bought at all. This is the one idea that makes every rule before it click into place. But Rule 7, the one we saved for last, goes even deeper. because it's not about what you buy or why, it's about what you're willing to wait for. Rule 7. The one you were told to save for last, and now you'll understand why. Western culture calls instant gratification a reward. Buy it now, feel better now, deal with the consequences later. Credit exists to make later disappear entirely. Most people were never taught to wait for anything. Waiting got quietly relabeled as deprivation, as missing out, as a problem to solve as fast as possible. Japan has a word that undoes that entire framework. It's called gaman, quiet endurance and self-restraint, the discipline of holding steady through discomfort instead of escaping it. This is gaman, not gritted teeth suffering, but a calm, deliberate patience, choosing to wait, because waiting has its own quiet dignity. And here's what nobody talks about. Gaman was never a separate rule. It was underneath all 6 of the others the entire time. The patience to write every yen in a kakeibo before spending it. The restraint behind mottainai, choosing repair over replacement. The discipline of danshari, refusing what you don't need. The willingness in wabi-sabi to wait for something built to last instead of buying something fast. The resourcefulness of furoshiki, reusing instead of reaching for something new. The clarity of Ikigai, saying no to anything that doesn't serve your purpose. Every rule before this one was gaman, wearing a different name. Most people in the West learn this too late, after years spent mistaking speed for freedom, when the real freedom was patience all along. Because gaman isn't deprivation. It's the version of freedom nobody markets to you, because nobody profits from you waiting. And this is the part that changes everything. Once you see gaman underneath the other 6 rules, you can't unsee it. Every buy now button starts to look a little different. You've been chasing instant relief for years. Japan quietly proved that patience was the real reward, centuries before anyone needed convincing. 7 rules, but really 1 idea, wearing 7 different faces. Awareness. Respect for what you own. Honesty about what you don't need. Patience for what's built to last. Resourcefulness before repurchase. Purpose before spending. And underneath all of it, the quiet endurance to wait. None of these rules ask you to earn more. None of them ask you to suffer or track every cent forever or give up the things you love. They ask something smaller and somehow harder, to slow down long enough to notice where your money is actually going and why. And if you're watching this, you already know which one of these 7 you needed to hear today. If any of this gave you even one thing to think about differently, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Someone still chasing more, when what they really need is less noise around the money they already have. And subscribe, because every week we go a little deeper into the quiet wisdom Japan has been living for centuries. You can budget every dollar you make, but money was never really about the dollars. You don't need to earn more. You need to waste less, want less, and wait a little longer. Japan has been proving that for centuries.